damn it. They couldn't use the Japanese names for solo leveling. They couldn't. They just couldn't. Do you know how difficult it is to learn how to pronounce certain names? It took me long enough to get Japanese down. Yes, the premiere of Solo Leveling, the most anticipated show really of the winter season, is here, and I've watched the first episode, and I'm here to give my thoughts on it. I will have to say, there's a reason. I now know why they showed 2 episodes at the conventions. There's no way they want to do this big premiere at the conventions and only show the first episode, because, man, what a crappy spot to leave it at. I kind of wish that they did like pretty much every anime does now. Well, not every anime, but a lot of anime do now, which is just do the first 2 episodes of the premiere for everybody. So at least we get some sort of sense of like a hook. Like this first episode, the only hook really that it gives is the idea that they're killing off a lot of characters, but that's not a shock anymore. Is anybody shocked by shows that have like brutal beginnings? I mean, Danmachi did it, and Danmachi's a harem show. But I know I bring up Danmachi way too much when I talk about Solo Leveling because I read a little bit of the manga. I haven't watched very far past where the first episode goes, so I'm not going to really get into any spoilers here. But I have to say, it's a fantastic adaptation so far. I mean, I'm not like connected to the original source material besides just reading a little bit of the manhwa, so don't take me as like a super fan of Solo Leveling or anything like that. I'm sure the super fans are upset about something in this first episode, but I think it was solid. Like, they did an incredible job animating it, great action, and yes, Suwana Hiroyuki all over the place. It's been a long time since I've heard Suwana Hiroyuki in a series, and so to get him back into a series again is fantastic. I completely skipped that horse show, so I haven't had him in a while. But yeah, Solo Leveling, fantastic so far. But yeah, let's just get into my thoughts of this. Opening up it in a world where over 10 years prior, these portals showed up and mankind tried to attack the monsters that were coming out of it. But as per usual, trope here, conventional weapons do not work. I did get a little bit of a kick out of the fact that at the very beginning of the episode, they have like this shot where these hunters are on this island and they're attacking a bunch of ants. And there's like military everywhere. And they established already, so it's been almost 10 years since the portal started opening, because this is 3 years prior to the beginning of when we first start with Song. And yes, it has this whole like long time period here where humans have established that conventional weapons do not work on it, but the military is there. Why is that? I guess to evacuate or to move people there. I guess that's the answer, but it's like, why does like this guy's like, we need to help them, but conventional weapons don't work. Why do they not know this yet? Like, this should be a normal thing in the world at this point. But anyways, it's exposition jump. I know it's exposition jump. But anyways, yes, portals are open. Monsters are coming out. They established later on that they have this president of the Hunters Association, because the only people that can fight these monsters are hunters. And hunters are people that have awakened to abilities, and based on how powerful their magic is, they get ranked. And whatever you get when you awaken, that's what you get. But additionally, like humanity is, when they started diving into these portals, they started to find that there is these mana crystals and these mana gems or magic gems. This is the part that I'm a little confused by, and it might be a translation thing. I might read the manga again just to kind of get clarified. But yes, essentially there's mana crystals that can be turned into weapons. So people hunt for these mana crystals, and then they turn them into better weapons, and then they use those to fight bigger monsters, and then those drop bigger gems, and then crystals, and they make bigger weapons. So that's their way of kind of progressing. But they also mentioned that there is magic gems, and apparently magic gems are better, and that it seems like the government wants hunters to keep going in there and procure these things and sell it to them so they can essentially create a new energy source. So there is a societal benefit to them going into these dungeons and destroying them. Now, that does sort of imply something that I'm pretty sure I know where that's going, is that in this meeting that apparently this Hunter Association president had with the government, they specified to avoid dungeon break. Now, I don't know what the dungeon break term means at this point, but I'm assuming whenever you go into a dungeon and destroy the boss or whatever, maybe the dungeon portal closes and that dungeon destroys. It's kind of like a labyrinth concept that a lot of stories have. I'm assuming that's what the dungeon break's going to be, is that maybe the government doesn't want them to actually finish the dungeons, which is probably beneficial to society in the idea that if they finish the dungeons, nobody gets hurt, but they want them to purposely possibly not destroy all the dungeons. That way they can keep getting these mana crystals and magic gems from them. So that's kind of one of those darker side of humanity, that there is a benefit, but at the same time, they don't want to lose that benefit. So they're purposely not removing this threat from humanity? Because these portals are popping up everywhere. And so you assume that these monsters are coming out and killing people because they show the ants kind of running around this one island. So it is kind of that shadier side of this whole story. But anyways, with the backstory stuff out of the way, there's now portals. People go into them that are hunters. Hunters have abilities. Their rank is based on their ability. They go in, they kill monsters, they kill the boss, and then apparently the portal closes after an hour of the monsters dying. And of course, we have to follow the weakest of the weak. Yes, Sung. Sung is literally like less than an E rank, apparently. I don't know. It seems like even in E rank dungeons, he's getting his butt kicked all the time. This guy is super weak. They haven't really implied what his ability is. Now, it doesn't really kind of go out of its way to explain everybody, but you see people that are like, you know, punching things and they shoot, you know, energy balls out of their fists. You have healers, you have different types of people, casters, but it hasn't really said what Sung is. I'm guessing he's just a dagger user and maybe physical capabilities is benefited. But again, because he's super weak, he's not doing very well. So I'm guessing despite the fact that he awoken to becoming a hunter, his abilities are just not really there. And his whole reasoning for why he is a hunter, despite the dangers of it, is that apparently his father disappeared. His mother is being hospitalized for something really bad that costs a lot of money. And it seems like he wants to put his sister through college. Now, here's that kind of struggle that I have with his character already, is the idea that it's mentioning the fact that he goes in these E-rank dungeons, he's getting his butt kicked, and he's not getting paid much. Meaning he's not getting any crystals or gems, so he's not really getting much out of it. He keeps pointing out the fact that he is making measly amounts of money, and it's like, well, then why are you there? Why don't you get a job being a fry cook or something? Why not get a job at a convenience store? Why this? Now, the only thing I can think of is maybe because he's a hunter, maybe the Hunter Association is helping with his mother's bills, but I don't know why they would do that for a weak person. People seem to know who this guy is. Everybody kind of laughs at him. He's very well known. He's known as the humanity's weakest hunter, which Sung himself admits. He's like, yep, I've heard this before. I've faced lots of criticisms. I've been through this. I'm used to it by now. Maybe it's just maybe on the idea of a gamble. Like he's hoping that one day he'll make it big and this is the easiest way. Sort of like just actually gambling. He's just gambling his life to hopefully one day get a massive gem or crystal that he can make a lot of money. But for now, he's just making crap. And the only weapon that he has is a dagger that's got barely any magic in it. But yeah, he goes to this one portal. They've been all called there. You have some people making comment about the fact that, oh, because he's here, obviously this is going to be a really easy dungeon. If this weaker than E rank is here, it's going to be a really weak and easy E rank. We got some guy there that's flagging the hell out of himself by saying that his wife is pregnant with her second child. Oh, by the way, later on they have to mention again, by the way, his wife is pregnant with a second child. Can we dig that? Can we dig that flag any further in the ground than just mention the fact that he's got another child on the way over and over and over again? But yeah, they go in there. This Johi girl is really upset that Sung got injured previously and really thinks that he shouldn't be a hunter, constantly telling them that he's risking his life for nothing and he needs to stop. But yes, they quickly defeat the boss of this E-rank dungeon, and as they're kind of collecting the loot and realizing there's not much there, somebody discovers a tunnel. That's when this conversation comes up about the fact that this is a double dungeon. Apparently some dungeons can become a double dungeon where this dungeon's here and there's a pathway to another dungeon or something. And it seems like whenever they normally discover a double dungeon, they will leave and tell the Hunters Association. So I'm guessing so this Hunters Association can go in there and maybe check it out or scout it first. Because it seems like after they go into the double dungeon area, somebody gets upset because they shouldn't have done it. There was a voting process. It was 6-6. Sung is the one that kind of votes it over. So they're all forced to kind of keep going in there. But yeah, they go in the double dungeon. They find this big, massive, oddly looking door. They're like, man, this is rare to see a door like this. They go in there. They see a bunch of statues. One of the statues has scriptures on it that says, you know, those that come in here, you must worship the god and praise the god. And if you don't leave alive. Johi noticed that one of the statue's eyes are moving. Some guy gets mad because the door is closed and he goes to leave. And then the statue cuts him right in half. Now, this is where we're kind of establishing a little bit of mindset of the hunters themselves, as there's kind of two stories being told here. You have what's happening in that room, which is, yes, this, assumingly at least a D rank adventurer hunter just gets chopped in half in a split second. And then you have this laser eyes shooting out and just frying people. But at the same time, you have the president of the Hunters Association talking in this orientation, which I'm thinking is supposed to be Sung's orientation. I think that's a flashback. And this president is basically talking about no matter how good you are, no matter how well you do as a hunter, always pretty much steal yourself with caution. You never know when the next step you're going to take is going to be something dangerous. It's kind of getting into the concept of, okay, you keep going in these dungeons and you're just wiping stuff out, but don't lose your caution. And I think that's an important thing to kind of establish in a setting like this, is the idea of this isn't it is technically a fantasy setting, let's be honest, but it isn't like your Dungeons and Dragons. It's not go out there, and it's not a video game, basically. You don't go in there and just fight things and you're overpowered and success. You never know when you might step into a case like this, a double dungeon that seems like it's probably much higher rank than what they originally came into. Don't get ahead of yourself and lose that caution. But yeah, at the same time, you also have within Sung's own mind is he's establishing why he's used to this. Everybody's getting fried, everybody's panicking, and it seems like he has a little bit more of an awareness here because, I guess, kind of giving credit to what the president's talking about in the situation, Sung always has been put in a life or death situation. His very first raid, he got separated and attacked by an E-rank monster and hospitalized for weeks. He got lost in a maze at some point in one dungeon. Sung has been through the ringer. Unlike many people that are probably in his party who just kind of like, let's go in here and just wipe everything out and it'll be super easy, Sung is always fighting for his life. I mean, even in this dungeon, he's nearly died like 2 times. That's why this Joey healer chick's like, dude, stop. You're an idiot. But yeah, people get fried, people get cut in half, and then the episode stops, which again was, I think of everything right now, that's my biggest beef, is that was a really crappy spot to leave it on. Not that I want the first episode to rush past this point and get to a hook. Like I said, the only hook that it has right now is a good job to establishing the world, some really good action pieces, and yes, the music's amazing, but the only hook that you really have right now to grab a person is, again, the death aspect, which is, yes, extremely brutal. I honestly admit, reading through this part in the manga, I just kind of like, yeah, okay, person in half, whatever. But I think having the music, having the blood splatter, having the characters kind of droop down on the floor dead, a lot of that stuff is a lot more intense in a actual animated format. So I think this is probably one of those cases where I think Solo Leveling, for me, is probably going to be better animated. Just like Attack on Titan was. I read the Attack on Titan manga, and I enjoyed it, but I think the anime did so much better because you get the voicing and all that kind of stuff thrown in there. You hear the screams of the people when somebody gets chopped in half, and the sound effects, and again, the music. The music, did I mention the music? But yeah, solid entry so far. We also had, very briefly on the side, we had the introduction of Hyene, I'm guessing her name is. Again, I hate these names, but she's apparently like an S rank for this one organization. They were kind of showing the whole process of people coming into, joining the Hunters Association. They go in there, they touch this gym, and apparently tells them what their rank is. You have a bunch of recruiters outside. They're all trying to grab people and sign contracts with them on the spot. And they were mentioning the idea that their current organization only has one S rank, and that's Hyene. We see her briefly. She's walking down the street, and some girl loses her purse, and the chick just like does a cartwheel over the bike and grabs the purse, and everybody freaks out because she's a celebrity, and then she just bounces off because apparently she doesn't like attention. And I think she's supposed to be the character that my brother thinks I'm going to be obsessed with, so we'll see. So far, nothing really I'm getting from her. Again, to my joke comparison of Don Machi, I would assume that she's going to be like the Eins Wallenstein or whatever her name is, showing up and saving Sung or something like that. So anyways, that's that. We'll see where it goes from here. I'm kind of curious about the whole aspect of the crystals and the gems and all that kind of stuff, if it's kind of a resource versus sort of a infusing type of thing. One is an energy and one is a material. That could be kind of that confusion that I'm having there. But it seems to, it wants to kind of establish a separation there, purposely kind of showing it kind of separating. So I'll be curious what they end up doing with that whole difference there. I will have to say there was a side of me that said, like, the moment the guys all reading the commandments and then somebody gets chopped in half, I mean, like, I think if I was in that room, I'd start like acting like I was praising the statue just to not die. That would be me in order to survive. Everybody start praising the laser shooting eyeball statue. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Solo Leveling so far. Again, I think a lot of my thoughts are going to be probably in the second episode. I thought about waiting until the second episode, but I don't know. I just want to talk about it, get my jokes out here, and discuss a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode so far. Did you watch the 2 episodes of the premiere at the conventions? If you did, lucky you. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content and news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.